This is part 4 to the grade 7 puzzle design project for the briefcase. In the previous video, you finished creating all of your parts. I've turned on my eyes here to show all of my parts. Yes, they're overlapping, but it doesn't matter in my drafting studio. What I'm going to do is come down here to my assembly. And I'm going to bring these parts into my 3D environment. I'm going to click Insert. And the first part I'm going to bring in is my briefcase. I'm going to left click to place it. I'm going to close out my insert and I'm going to right click on my part. And I'm going to click on Fix. Again, to remember, this three-dimensional environment doesn't have any rules. It's up to us to set the geometric rules for this environment. And the first rule that I want is to pin this part to the environment or fix it, making it the focal point that everything else revolves around. I'm going to come back to Insert again, clicking on my briefcase again. Notice I didn't have to build two halves to it. I just had to make one half and bring in two of those parts. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my Revolve tool. I'm going to choose the line here and that same line on the other briefcase. And then I'm going to use my menu here to rotate it and then flip it on its axis. And then I'm going to click my green check mark. Now the cool thing that you're going to see is I can now open and close my briefcase. Now because I didn't set any limits on this, the briefcase will go through each other. I'm not going to show you in this video. If you click on Revolution, you can set limits to this so you can stop and open the briefcase just like a hinge would. But I'll let you experiment with that and find the right limits. The first thing I can do is I can go back to my sketch and look at which piece I want to bring in first. And I'm going to bring in piece 1. So I'm going to come up to my Insert. My piece 1 is called Part 1 here. And I'm going to bring in 1. Now there's two ways to go about this. I could do planar mates and restrict it with 3 separate rules on the X, Y, and Z axis. Or I can do a fastened mate, which fastens 2 exact points. So I'm going to attempt to do a fasten mate here. I'm going to say, where do I want to fasten it to? Well, I have this corner of the briefcase here on the bottom. I would want fastened to this corner of my part. I can reorientate myself, green check mark to solve it. And we can see that according to my diagram now, that first piece is in. I'm going to close out my fasten menu and go back to my insert. And now I'm going to bring in my part 2, which goes directly next to that. I'm going to click to bring that in and then my green check mark. Again, I'm going to use my fasten one so I can set 1 rule instead of 3. I'm going to choose the center portion of this face. And I'm going to join that with the center portion of this face. Green check mark. Now, it's very important to keep your orientation on this so you don't get lost while putting your own puzzle together in this 3-dimensional environment. I'm going to close out my fastened. I'm going to come back to Insert. And this time I'm going to bring in my third part, which is labeled Part 4 here. In the next video, I will show how I assembled that part.